Okay, here we go. Grab a pint of tea because we're diving into it again. My first video on this channel was Doctor Who has a monster problem, and as this series of Doctor Who is about to wrap up, that hasn't changed. If anything, I think it's become clearer, so we're going to talk about it. If you've watched any of my videos, and you should, they are a work of pure art, then you will know that the one thing I like more than a 2-for-1 deal on a bottle of Thatcher's is monsters in my little blue box show. I would probably go as far to say that the monsters are the beating heart of the series. Yes, the Doctor's the lead and the companions are important. Yes, the TARDIS is iconic and we all love a cool CGI planet, but without the monsters, it all seems aimless. The monsters are exciting. They're the promise of danger, mystery, threat, thrills, and behind-the-sofa viewing. And they're exciting not just for children, but for adults too. It's nice to watch a show and feel like a kid again, finding joy in the ridiculous green creatures you don't get in your ITV crime dramas. And honestly, if Doctor Who was a crime drama, we'd have a post on a lamppost by now saying, "Missing, have you seen this monster?" And let's be honest, this has been an issue for a while. Not just this era, I think every showrunner has fallen into this trap at one point. But this time it just feels so noticeable. There's a lot of talk about viewing figures and ratings in the fandom, and I'm not going to touch on that, because honestly, I can't be asked. But I think it's interesting that the demographic of children haven't connected with this era. And I think the producers and the BBC will be kind of surprised by that, but it makes perfect sense to me. If we go back and look at Series 1, the difference between how monsters were used then to how they are now is kind of shocking. Autons, an alien party, the Gelfs, Levine, the Daleks, 6 episodes back to back crammed full of amazing monsters. And they're not just villains, they're not just an actor caked in makeup or a few horns hanging out of a head. These are monsters, alien monsters, creatures from another world. Are all of them going to be iconic to the general public? No, but they were bloody fun to watch at the time. I mean, say what you want about the Levine, but they went on to be one of the recurring big bads in the Sarah Jane adventures. And the series as a whole keeps this up. The Reapers are fun, the gas mask zombies are terrifying. I mean, the ceiling with teeth is probably the weakest of the bunch, but the long game has other issues other than just the monster. I don't think the Jaggerfest is the problem. In Season 2, kids were told their teachers were actually bat creatures. We were introduced to the Cybermen, cat nurses, a werewolf, a bloody werewolf. Series 3, Jadoon, witches, the weeping angels. Even in the more grown-up stories like Human Nature, we had scarecrows alongside the family of blood, and they're still creepy. This scene is horrible. And I could go on and on, but you get the point. The monsters didn't feel like plot devices. They felt like characters in their own right, with their own schemes and plots and history. And I think that's the main issue. The reason why the monsters feel like they're an afterthought is because, in a way, they are. Because we haven't had a writer who's excited to create a new monster. If I look at this era, for me it's obvious that monsters have not been the driving force or what the writer has been excited to explore and create. Russell hasn't come back because he's had amazing creature ideas. Instead he's exploring what he never did: gods, myths, the Rani, Omega, the ever-expanding lore of the show. Moffat didn't come back because of a new monster idea, instead a plot for the Doctor. Even in Rogue, which I actually liked from Season 1, the monsters play second fiddle. The main interest for the writers is the romantic storyline and the setting. The monsters are fine, they're quite fun, but they're not why the story's being told. And this season is the same. The opening, while good fun, isn't interested in its big bad. Lux is good, but the episode wants to do more than just have the monster, focusing on things that have never been done before rather than generic tea time scares. We'll talk about the well in a bit, I'm not skipping it, it's getting a section all on its own. Lucky Day, I like the streak, but you probably could rewrite the script, take it out and make it a fully political commentary. Story in the Engine, no monster, instead it explores the Doctor and how stories connect us. Interstellar Song Contest, no monster, it's more interested in its big budget and making a bad political statement. And the final villain, yes, but no monster. It's all lore. And when filming this, I don't think part 2 is going to change that. No writer has come with full force with a "I have a monster idea that will scare you silly." No one's tried to compete with the iconic Daleks, Cybermen or Weeping Angels. Honestly, it kind of feels like the monsters are an inconvenience to the stories, as if they have to be there because they're part of the fabric of Doctor Who, that they're written into the story out of habit rather than excitement. Teachers being monsters is exciting for everyone. Omega coming back is just exciting for fans. And I'm not saying you can't have both, I think you need both. The show works best when it caters for everyone. Because the show is a family show, and yet I don't think it's family viewing anymore. It feels like it's meant to be watched alone, when you're in your room feeling a little nerdy. And that's fine, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it feels off for a show that once dominated Saturday night. Season 1 aired at midnight, Season 2, 8 AM. That's not family telly, that's secluded viewing. And I think what ties all my points together is the well. I wanted to talk about this episode separately because it's kind of the anomaly, but also the one episode this season that I think proves my point the best. I am so happy I said anomaly right then, I struggle with that word all the time. Because the well doesn't actually feature the monster, we barely see it, and yet it's the one episode this year that actually feels the most monster heavy. And that's not just weird, That is insane to me. An episode where the monster doesn't get any screen time is the one episode where it's actually used throughout. The plot revolves around scaring the audience. It's full of dread and fear, and yet you barely see anything. And this is an episode that I would say is one of the more grown-up stories this year, and yet it's the one that actually has a very well-established threat that I think young viewers would enjoy. It makes no sense. Like, this isn't a criticism of the well, thank God it exists, but I just find that so odd. Like, Midnight is an amazing episode, probably one of the best Doctor Who stories, but imagine if it was the only story in Series 4 that properly featured its monster or threat. That would have been insane, but instead we get Daleks, Davros, Oods, Sontarans, the Vashnarada. Not just villains, but aliens, monsters. They're things that kids want to play in the playground, things kids want to draw, want to dress up as, or want the toy of. And I'm not saying that every episode needs to heavily feature a monster. Doctor Who has done some amazing stories that are more character heavy. Turn Left is a perfect example, but Turn Left is episode 11 of Series 4. There had already been a ton of great creatures and family-friendly scares beforehand. It feels different and experimental because it is, because a mould for the show had already been established, but you can't break a mould if there isn't one. For example, in my last few videos, I haven't told you to like or subscribe, so me doing so now is breaking the mould. Thank you in advance. And if I'm talking about the monster issue, I'm going to have to talk about an episode that gave people a reason to expect less before this series even started, and that's the Doctor Who Christmas special. Now listen, I like Stephen Moffat and I like Doctor Who. I like Joy and I quite like The World. It keeps me homely. But Joy to the World for me was a massive misfire, because I think Doctor Who Christmas specials should be treated slightly differently. Christmas Day is the ultimate family day. It's the one day of the year you can guarantee the whole family sitting down to watch some telly. There's no going to the pub, they're not going to the beach, they are indoors, full of food and booze, ready to have a good time with that magical box in the living room. It is the perfect day for Doctor Who. It's the perfect day to drum up excitement and to get the new generation of fans obsessed with the show. You can hook the kids, the parents, the alcoholic grandmas all in one episode. It just needs to be showy, big, loud, and exciting. And yet, it is pretty much agreed that the best scene in the episode is when the Doctor spends a year in a crappy hotel with a character we've never met before. And yeah, it is the best part of the episode, and that should not be the case for Christmas Day viewing. I know there's a T-Rex at one point, but no, I guarantee the kids were bored and playing with their new toys before that scene even came on, because I know I was. And I genuinely can't argue much for the episode because there's barely anything to grab onto. And I know A Christmas Carol doesn't exactly have a monster, but it's still full of heart. It's emotional, Christmassy and romantic. It's really a spectacle, and it moves at a breakneck pace. Joy to the World doesn't. It's just an hour where some things kind of happen, and because of that, I'm not surprised that it didn't make people feel like they had to tune in for the next season. The reason I loved Doctor Who as a kid, and the reason why I still love it now, is because it's magical. An alien time traveller with a box that's bigger on the inside, travelling through space and time with a friend while fighting foes and terrifying creatures. It's a premise that can't be beaten, and you can add all the lore you want on top of it, but the show is beautiful in its simplicity. The ingredients are all there. You just got to cook up a monster.